Hey there, River Dragons fans. Liam Gotimer here with you. I'm here alongside Tom Callahan, the voice of the Pee Dee IceCats, to preview the Continental Division Final, which kicks off tonight at the Florence Center. It's a best of three, and a chance at the Commissioner's Cup Final is on the line.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining us here. Tom Callahan, Liam Gotimer, and we are going to talk about this Columbus-Florence series coming up. It starts with Game 1 here on the road Wednesday night at Florence Center, and then the scene will shift to Columbus and the Civic Center there. Saturday for Game 2, Game 3 if necessary. On the weekend will be Sunday. But, Liam, coming into it, I mean, you and I both know how important Game 1 is, and it's here in Florence. So let's talk about from the River Dragons side. Go back through your series a little bit. Physical three-game series against the Moccasins. Let us know how that went.
It had a little bit of everything, Tom. Game 1 was at the Columbus Civic Center, and you talked about it, right? Beginning the series at home, that was a distinct advantage for Columbus, in my opinion. They take down Monroe by a final score of 8-3. The River Dragons, very seldom did they take down the Moccasins in regulation time this season. In fact, they didn't. Both of their victories came in the extra session, so they were able to do that in Game 1 of the playoffs, take a stranglehold of the series, and go into Monroe, which was a building that they had not won in all season. They had 2 tries to get the job done. Night 1, Tyler Masternak, sensational, a 39-save shutout. And then the next night, Columbus really clutched up and grabbed themselves a series-clinching victory.
What was the difference? Game 1 to Game 2, you go from 8 goals to no goals.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
You know, I would say it's a combination of things, right? Chris Branch started Game 1 for Monroe, which I think was a surprise for everybody. Tyler Masternak did not even make the trip for the Moccasins, and you know, you could say, is it an injury? Is there something else going on behind the scenes? I didn't really want to speculate too much, but obviously we saw Masternak in Game 2 and Game 3, so after the series is over, I can only think that they wanted to put Branch in for Game 1 because they were confident that they were going to win both games at home, and I'm not sure they should have been all that confident that they were going to win both games at home, because they didn't.
So I'm interested to know, what was Jerome Bichard's thought process after getting blanked in Game 2 and the team heading into that final Game 3?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a short coach's corner, to be honest. Boom was
I can see that.
Boomer was all business, but no, he just stuck to the game plan. He made some lineup changes, of course, with it being 3 games in 3 nights. You wanted to get some fresh legs in there. So Ben Stefanini, who previously wore a letter for the Moccasins, you know, he came and played against his former team and had some fresh legs and brought some energy out there. And Lucas Texmo played in his very first playoff game in Game 3. So I think just getting some new faces in there and some renewed energy really made all the difference in Game 3, because it's easy to get tired out through 3 games in 3 nights.
Yeah, not a whole heck of a lot of rest for you guys, because as you mentioned, you had to ride back. Now, did you go back to Columbus, stop, basically, you know, do laundry and come here?
Yep, exactly. Quick turnaround. I was surprised when I saw Wednesday night, Game 1. So it's, what is it, 4 games in 6 nights for us. So.
Yeah, and it won't get any easier on the weekend, too. I know it's now it has been bumped back, and that is something we do want to mention. Mm-hmm. It was Friday, Saturday. It's now Saturday and Sunday, if necessary, for the series. So please make sure you make your adjustments for that. Liam, continuing to talk about this River Dragons team, it's hard not to start and end the conversation, I think, with Trevor Babin in net. He really looked spectacular, made all the saves that you needed in Game 3, rather.
He's been
Games 1 and 3.
For sure. He's been spectacular all season, and you know, I think it can't be understated how important it was for Trevor Babin to be at the top of his game. Again, playing 3 games in 3 nights. You know, in talking to head coach Bichard, you know, you mentioned what was his mentality going into the winner-go-home Game 3. One of the things he told me was, well, Tyler Roy has to be ready to potentially come into the game, you know, if the fatigue became a factor for Trevor Babin, and it didn't. I mean, he just was continuing what he has done all season in between the pipes in all 3 games. Not the reason why we lost Game 2, of course, getting blanked, we'll tell you that, and then he was under fire there in the 3rd period after Kirk Underwood scored a game-winning and series-winning shorthanded goal.
He's been playing up front a little bit now.
Yeah, he has. So much depth on defense, so Kirk is playing up front. He'll be playing up front here tonight as well, starting the series in Florence, and he's become a goal-scoring savant.
You know what? He's always had an knack for the big goal. Just finds a way to get that big goal, and you know, big-time players. And this is a series. I want to finish talking about the goaltending here before we get to the forwards and the defense. But Brendan Colgan, former River Dragon, record-setting River Dragon, and former goaltender of the year, facing his old team. And that's kind of an exciting thing. I think the game within the game, we like to talk about that. He's a big guy, protects the net well. Always, I like to joke he plays a game at a resting heart rate. Never gets too excited. I think this could be maybe the best goaltending matchup we've seen all year.
I certainly concur. And didn't Brendan Colgan make his Pee Dee IceCat debut in Columbus against the River Dragons on Military Appreciation Night? So there's a lot of storylines that go along with the goaltending matchup. And Colgan's been super impressive. And, I'd like to mention Parker Rutherford as well, who came in and kind of stabilized that position before Colgan was acquired in a midseason trade.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The team's confident in their goaltenders, as I know the River Dragons are as well.
Yep.
Let's talk about the forward core. We'll start with the River Dragons and talking about the changes that have been made. You mentioned Kirk Underwood moves up front. Is that like injuries have caused openings, or as you mentioned, there's a lot of depth on the defense? I mean, why the shuffle up front?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a late season shuffle there, Tom, and I would say it was the acquisitions that we brought in. I think Nathaniel Mott has come in on the back end. He played with Brody Thornton in college at the ACHA level at Adrian. They won a national championship together, so that has really stabilized one of the pairings. Another one is Mike Wynn and Josh Colton. They've played together for a long time in Motor City with the Rockers, so it's tough to break that up. You add Nathan Balkwill and Lucas Texmo, who has really broken out. In my opinion, I think Lucas Texmo is one of the most underrated rookie defensemen in this league. If you go back and watch the tape in Game 3 against Monroe, our best player was Lucas Texmo.
Okay.
In my opinion.
So that creates the shuffle in the room up front then.
It does. And, I think Kirk likes playing on defense, and I think the team appreciates having him back there because I've heard many players tell me, he's our best defender back there and he's our smoothest skater. But I think Kirk selfishly loves to play up front a little bit and, be there for the big time moment, and he has stepped up every chance that he's gotten.
I think all of us we're goal scorers in our minds, right? But
I wish I could tickle the twine out there.
Yeah,
nice.
it's fun to watch these guys, and you guys offensively. I mean, you've got a lot of weapons. Obviously, Tyler Barrow was huge this year, but Ryan Hunter, just a pure shooter, a guy who can score from anywhere. Certainly. And then you've got, Alexander Jemayev and Kyle Moore, who's always plugging away and always trying to stir the pot. I mean, this is a pretty darn good group of forwards.
It certainly is. And, I'll touch on Tyler Barrow. I mean, tied for the league leading goals during the regular season with a man I'm sure we'll talk about in just a few moments in Patrick Marcinkiewicz on the IceCats side. First season of FPHL hockey for Tyler Barrow, and he has just lit up the score sheet. So he's a big factor in this series. Ryan Hunter, I think, is the biggest player in this series for the River Dragons if they are going to move on to the Commissioner's Cup final. He led the league with 18 power play goals during the regular season. He does not have one through 3 playoff games, and the River Dragons' efficiency on the man advantage is less than 10% entering tonight's game. And that was a power play that operated at 26% during the regular season. That's my X factor right there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Very good. Because I was going to ask you about X factors, so we can get to all that. Talking about the IceCats up front, it's interesting because the temptation could be to put Alex Legkov and Patrick Marcinkiewicz together because they're both dynamic players. They read and react off each other very well. Obviously, they can both shoot the puck. Right. But talking about depth up front, Pee Dee has a nice setup where they're able to stick with a line of Zajac, Frolov, and Legkov, and then have Marcinkiewicz with Houston Wilson and Elijah Wilson, who, you want to talk about X factors, he's blossomed. 3 goals in the last series. Yep. Talking to him this week on our IceCats Insider show, he said it took him a little while to make the adjustment. He came in kind of late, but was welcomed here with open arms, but it still took him a little while to figure out his place and how he could really fit in. He was dealing with some injury issues. Right. And then, into the playoffs, all of a sudden, we've seen it, right, guys? Examples of in the NHL, like Joel Ward, John Druce, these guys who just all of a sudden in the playoffs step up and become the playoff performer. And, maybe Elijah Wilson's that guy. So he could be an X factor. But I do want to talk about special teams because I feel like the penalty kill for Pee Dee was so good early on, and it wasn't as good down the stretch. Of course, we talk about the River Dragons power play finishing #1 in the league, but in the postseason, it's just different. So we talked about some X factors, guys who you think can stand out and make the difference in the series. So, Liam, let me ask you, if you're just going to give me a couple of bullets, why does Columbus win this series, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, the first one would be Trevor Babin. The amount of shot volume and the quality scoring chances that Babin faced in the first round against the Monroe Moccasins, he's ready for this series. And I'll give the fans a little bit of a preview. I spoke to Trevor yesterday morning, and I said I'm pumped up, and he said, you're not nearly as pumped up as I am. So he's ready for Game 1, and if the River Dragons are going to win and go to the Commissioner's Cup final, the goaltender is going to be a massive, massive reason why. And, I'll look to the back end, too. Nathan Balkwill has been so stable on defense all season. He's playing alongside Lucas Texmo. If you want to circle one pairing, that's the one that I'd look at. Mike Wynn got a little bit banged up in Game 3 against the Monroe Moccasins, so he's day-to-day, so he will not be playing this evening. So a little bit of a shuffle on the defensive side of the puck, just and Samaro will be inserted back into the lineup. He'll play on defense. So I think it's just those guys who haven't played with one another in a little while. Nathaniel Mott not playing tonight as well. They just got to mesh well, and it's a short series. There's very small margin for error, Tom. So they got to come together and they got to execute, but I have the utmost confidence that they will.
All right, if I'm going to talk about why the Pee Dee IceCats are going to win this series, I think for me it's going to go with, first of all, the forward depth, but actually I'm not going to talk about Patrick Smarson-Kevics. Even though he's the guy who's putting the puck in the net, he's actually become much more of a playmaker, which is great to see. But honestly, for me, it is the depth of this team that's going to carry them. So running those three lines, especially the third line, and these guys, they scored one huge goal in that game at Athens against the Rock Lobsters. Nick Gullo started that 3-goal outburst. Yeah. That was huge. But the other thing that Pee Dee has done subtly well, speaking of the offensive side of the game, it's actually been coming from the blue line. Guys like Dominic Della Savita, Jordan Popoff, finding ways to get pucks through. Teamer Razilov finally got his first of the year late in the season.
Tom,
Congrats, Teamer.
That is one of my favorite stories this season. And that goal, did that not send you guys to the playoffs? Wasn't that the go-ahead goal against the Thunderbirds here on home ice?
Turned out to be the game winner.
I saw him over in Columbus, and I had to go up to him. I was like, that is what makes hockey awesome.
Yes.
So I'm going to echo what you said. Congratulations,
Yeah,
team.
no, for sure. But scoring from the blue line has been coming now, and that's not something, quite honestly, you see at this level very often.
That's true.
So I think if the support is there from the IceCats defensively and a little bit on the offensive side, that one extra goal in a game or maybe every other game can make a difference, especially in a short series. So those are two things that I would circle as well.
And, one more key point on the River Dragon end as to why they will advance to the Commissioner's Cup final. If they do, we're due, Tom.
Yes, I know that.
We're due.
I do know that. So
and we do not want to bow out to another Carolina team. I'll tell you that.
That's fair.
Like we have the last few years.
That's fair. And for Pee Dee, hey, the upstart kids, they continue on. So we shall see. But Liam, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure, Tom.
And look forward to bringing you the drop of the puck. Wednesday night's game 1 is 7:15 p.m. Saturday night game 2, 7:05, and then if necessary on Sunday at 6:05. So if you want the River Dragons call, you got Liam. If you want the IceCats call, you've got me. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And hey, let's drop the puck on game 1.